So glad that you're with us and so thankful for every person that gave the last 3 days to AFR's Share-a-thon and helping us, encouraging us, seeing to it that this independent voice for truth remains on the air. Your gifts were greatly appreciated. AFR Talk, AFA Today, and again, just so thankful for your thankfulness, for your thoughtfulness. We're coming to you from the belly of the news beast in the shadow of the Freedom Tower. From the locale just north of the Trinity Church. And if you were watching on the AFA channel, that shot that you saw just there, that was the bull, the Wall Street bull. That charging bull is like 200 feet from the doorsteps of the building that we come to you from. So if you're in New York sometime, and we always make this invite available, you ever want to come up and watch the show while we're doing it, we'd be more than happy to make that happen. You just let me know if you're coming, kmcradio@gmail.com, and we'll see to it that it does. Kevin McCullough is my name. My phone number is 888-589-8840. Think about the days in which we live, friends. A shooting takes place at Fort Hood, and instead of the president understanding the mistake that he didn't make corrections on when the first Fort Hood shooting went down, he just goes and offers up some lame words of, cotton candy-like importance, instead of saying, we're gonna change the rules. We're going to let our military men and women carry guns on base. They're not allowed to defend themselves right now. We're not going to do that. The same federal government is pushing to make those that wish to exercise their faith in every area of their life, as they're guaranteed the right to do by the Constitution, is pushing to make those people, to force them to violate their conscience, to force them to violate the morality of their soul in order to be in complete compliance with the mandates of the healthcare law. This is the same administration that wants to force those same people of religious faith to offer things that would kill babies in doing so. This is the same administration that desires to see children that are born alive not be allowed to live if they survived an abortive procedure. This is the same administration that has now gone to Nevada, jumped the shark, if you will, jumped the governor of the state, jumped the citizens of that state, and is setting up an almost. This reminds me of Waco, friends. This is getting weird. Why do we have snipers out there? Is the Bundy family so dangerous that that they must have snipers out there? And what are they sniping him from? What are they keeping him from doing? 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. What is your thought on this as we are facing this kind of bold new world that this administration seems to be intent upon bringing about? 888-589-8840. I want to know your thoughts. Let's go to Robert in Illinois. Hi, Robert. Welcome. Glad you're with us.
Oh, hello, Kevin. This is a wonderful show today.
Thank you.
I'd just like to bring a few things to point out a few things. The Attorney General that you mentioned a few minutes ago, as I recall, he had a small hand in a similar event. I think it was the Oklahoma City around this time of the year, whenever it happened. And also, if I'm not mistaken, he also had a hand in the Waco Branch Davidian fiasco, and he kind of had the same mindset. And I'd like to remind people that this entire scenario that's unfolding in Nevada was escalated by the government, and in fact, it's almost like a direct provocation, as if they are trying to incite or some kind of an incident and bring something to a head. And
right.
I would like for people to explain, and in real life to people that they know, inform them of what's going on and what's at stake here, and how
right.
the government is overstepping its bounds. They need to spread that on a personal basis to people that they see out and about when they're during their day. I think it's very important.
Robert, you couldn't be more accurate, and that is so important. And this is not the days of the Waco siege. Yesterday, when I told you I viewed the entirety of that raw footage that we played for you at the beginning of the hour, where some of the enforcers and the dogs and the tasers were out, and they tased a pregnant woman. One of them pushed a cancer victim down to the ground. I mean, the story, I mean, it's kind of outrageous the levels of quote enforcement that they're resorting to already. The difference here is that in that video that I saw, I could count a minimum of 20 to 30 people shooting video footage of that specific incident. We didn't have that in previous government seizures. We didn't have that in other situations. There will be, hopefully, I pray, a day in which this evidence will all be seen objectively by the light of day, and they weren't confiscating those cameras. So that footage is out there. It's getting uploaded to the internet. There's going to be YouTube channels with people posting this stuff that they're not going to be able to run away from. This is one of the values of the current age of technology that we have. We can actually get a lot more things on the record and keep people far more accountable than we've ever been able to before. And that's beneficial, I believe, in this particular circumstance. But if you're just joining us, what we're talking about is this rancher, Clive Bundy, in Nevada, who is dealing with the federal agencies that are trying to get him to basically surrender a plot of land that his family has worked for 100 years. And they have raised cattle on that land for 100 years, and they have improved that piece of land over those 100 years as is necessary, because you can't just let cattle graze without improving the property if you don't continue to plant and irrigate and so forth. There's other things that you'll just die. Everything will die. So they've continued to care for the maintenance of and improve the property for the last 100 years. And the feds say, no, there's some desert tortoises out there somewhere, and we think you're destroying them. So under this kind of premise of, well, we're going to say that we're protecting this tortoise, that another report came out showing that Bureau of Land Management themselves have killed hundreds of desert tortoises in recent months. So that's a bogus claim. But what they're betting on is that they can get this family to yield, to surrender, to give up before the entire nation gets riveted to the story and they really understand the facts. And that's why, friends, I decided there was a lot of things I could have talked about today. A lot of disturbing things that needed to be discussed today. This is the one item I felt like we had to discuss that trumped everything else. It's more important. There are significant, wide swaths of constitutional authority that are being negated here in very unconstitutional ways. The individual rights of the citizen, the state's rights, and the issue of how and why the federal government can enforce themselves upon the state and the individual in a way that is completely unconstitutional. The governor of Nevada has made it clear that this rancher has paid every ounce of dues and necessary taxes and appropriations to do what he is doing in the state of Nevada. He's in good standing before his governor. It is only because the feds want to, quote, protect this desert tortoise that he is being now assessed grazing fees on, quote, federal lands that never belonged to the federal government and have not grazing fees have not been enforced here. But they're saying retroactively he owes 20 years worth of grazing fees. And because of all of this, because of all that I just told you, they have the right to come in and take his 1,000 head of cattle. And they're not even selling the cattle or butchering them for people to have food to eat. They're not doing anything like that. They're taking them off and putting them down. They're bringing in backhoes and burying the dead ones that they're shooting and killing in the property there. Friends, this is unbelievably shameful by the Justice Department, by the administration, by the president, by the Attorney General, by the Homeland Security, if that's what they're using. 888-589-8840, your calls. Let's go to Jeff in Texas. Hi, Jeff. Welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Glad you're here.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks a lot for taking my call. I have a couple of brief statements, and then I'd love to hear your response.
Sure.
Number one, I'm not even sure we live under a constitution anymore, thanks in part to the continual erosion of states' rights and 10th Amendment encroachments. The barbarian tactics employed by our government are no different in this situation than eminent domain
Right.
when a private individual's property is taken and then given to a multinational corporation so that they can, quote, better the economic growth of the area. The theft of this property I mean, again, it's no different than forcing a consumer to buy something that they don't want, maybe health insurance.
Right.
And finally, I want to encourage people that what they need to understand is that this one guy's rights being taken set a precedent for the erosion of our very own.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank you, sir.
I thank you. Good stuff, Jeff. Excellently said. And that's why I said this should matter to every American. This should bother every one of us, because if they can do it to 1, they can do it to 2. They can do it to 4. They can do it to 8. They can do it to 16. It's not the idea that this doesn't apply to you because you don't live in Nevada, or you're not a rancher, or it's somebody else's problem, or if he'd just go along with it, everything would be okay. Those are foolish thoughts, friends, because it is setting a precedent. And it is tyranny. It is all-out tyranny. Using the forces of law enforcement, federal military power, point of a gun, to a law-abiding private citizen who's in good standing. If this man was a criminal, that'd be one thing. But there's no evidence of that. They're trying to say he didn't pay grazing fees. That's whatever. This man is a law-abiding citizen. The state that he lives in says he has improved this property over this amount of time. His family's been there for 100 years, and they are thieving his 1,000 head of cattle. Does that bother you? Should it bother you? 888-589-8840. Dan in Ohio, you're up next. Hi, Dan.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good.
This is an excellent topic today.
Thank you.
And, history repeats itself. And this is the same thing that happened back in the 1760s, 1700s with the King of England. History repeats itself, just different players. And I think that this is the sickness of the transformation of America, quote unquote.
The fundamental transformation.
Yes,
Yep.
the fundamental transformation, and we better wake up and see it. And I just think about this, and this is the American Night of Glass. And that's it.
Well, and it's getting shattered. I mean, that's the real thing. We probably to think that this is possibly real is probably extremely frightening to the average American. But friends, we cannot allow ourselves to turn away from this. We cannot allow ourselves to look the other direction. We need to see this for what it is. We need to take the actions necessary, and we need to stand with those who are doing right, not wrong in this scenario. 888-589-8840. Let's talk to Mary, who's calling from Texas. Hi, Mary.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon. I'm calling to recommend that everybody get a copy of a government publication called Recreation of Public Opportunities on Public Lands, and see how much of the western of the western lands are owned by the government, either the forest or the national parks or the BLM. It's amazing. Starting with the western Texas, they own almost all of a lot of the public lands. Also, during the Clinton administration, he's confiscated land that's now called Grand Staircase Escalante in Utah under an executive order without the approval or the recommendation of
Congress.
Of the Congress. Senator Hatch had no idea he was going to do it. We have visited much of the western part of the United States, and it is amazing to see those things. But for them to go in and just they took this state land and made it a national park without any approval. And people need to wake up that this is, like you've been saying all morning, that we need to become aware. I did not realize how much of the land in the West belonged to the U.S. government in one form or another. Had a friend who grew up in Washington State, and I said, well, the government owns most of the western lands, and she was amazed when I showed her the map. And there is a map that you can obtain. I went online while I was waiting to talk to you, and I couldn't. They wanted to know where I was wanting to go and all that stuff. I picked this up at the Forest Service.
Gotcha.
Office or something. But anyway, people need to wake up to what's going on, especially with this administration. And I thank you for taking my call, and I thank you for the time you spent on this today. And I also heard about them shooting the tortoises.
Yeah, and so again, total hypocrisy here. I mean, and thank you, Mary, for the good information. Total hypocrisy. Total hypocrisy. You're claiming that this is a breed of tortoise that's in imminent danger, and you've been killing them on purpose. Friends, we can do one of two things here. We can live our lives, be very busy about what we're doing today, race to the end of the day, get everything done, and kind of shut out the rest of the world, not think about anything other than just what's on our schedule. Or we can take a really hard look at what's going on in our nation and rededicate ourselves to the idea that we need to obliterate confusion, amplify truth, and to pursue clarity. And when we do that, we're going to have to be involved. We're going to have to take action from time to time. There are going to be things that we are going to have to do that we may not want to do, but that we're going to need to do if we're going to have the United States of America going forward. And if that's not important to you, then this has been a wasted hour. But if you care at all about the future that your family is inheriting, I urge you to consider, pray, and act. Kevin McCullough, glad to be with you every single weekday. Again, thank you to every gift that was made yesterday and the 2 days preceding that at Share-a-thon 2014. We will be back, of course, on Monday, and I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you spend some time in God's house and with His people. Great way to be refreshed. And then join us again here for AFA Today on AFR Talk come Monday. We'll see you then.